William and Kate deemed boring by the British media. Are we surprised? Absolutely not. Is this the first time they've been called boring? Absolutely not. They at one point were referred to as Mr. and Mrs. Bland. There is a clip of a discussion I would like to play around Harry's visit last week to the United Kingdom in correlation to the Prince and Princess of Wales's royal engagement. So let's take a listen.
I watched the television last night. You know, they split the screen. They showed Harry at his Well Child charity, and they showed Kate and William at the Women's Institute. And incidentally, it was only supposed to be William going. At the last minute, Kate said she wanted to be there.
We know Kate didn't say that. She didn't say that.
That's because they realised that Harry, if Kate wasn't there, would get the headlines. And you watched Harry. The royal family really needs him. His interactions with people, he's so natural and friendly and warm.
I mean, we know that, but let's listen to the opposition right quick.
No, I think it's the other way around. I think Harry misses Britain. I think, frankly, over the coming years, he'll start to regret, being so badly persuaded.
We're not even going to indulge in the rest of that conversation because who misses the second most miserable country in the world? I'm pretty sure that list is going to be updated. If you know, you know. By the way, happy birthday to the Prince Henry, the Duke of Sussex. An article released today by Newsweek labeled boring, but labeled boring specifically after Harry's visit. If you know Amanda Platel, then you might be a little bit shocked by this. Of course, she writes an obnoxious piece about Harry earlier in the week, but if you look at what she wrote about the Waleses later on, quote, Harry's visit brought us something we have not seen for a very long time from the royals, laughter and joy. Well, we know that. Which leaves many of us asking why William and Kate have decided to hide away and become the Prince and Princess of boring. And y'all should see the comments under that post. My God. Like I said, this isn't the first time they've been called boring. Jane Moore from the Mail, I believe, wrote, and I quote, from the tips of her favorite nude shoes to the top of his Homer Simpson forehead. Kate and Wills have proved themselves to be as dull as Windsor moat water. They are high street, not high class. I love that. Wait a minute. I need to find who this is. You know what this is? Hashtag accountability. The starting five are gone, and if you don't know who they are, they were the late Queen, Prince Philip, Diana Princess of Wales, Harry, Meghan. The people with pizzazz. All they have left is a bunch of overcoats and eccentric costumes. Boring. Anyways, that's your In Royal News. Mwah. Bye.
So we have a onslaught and attack on Kate Middleton and Prince William happening by none other than their best friend, the Daily Mail. One thing about a snake is that just because you think they are your friends doesn't mean that they can't bite you too. Their article and what they're stating is absolutely insanity. The Daily Mail has noted that William and Kate are being boring, dull and lazy. Harry's visit brought us something we have not seen for a very long time from the royals, laughter and joy, which leaves many of us asking why William and Kate have decided to hide away and become the Prince and Princess of boring. There have been fantastic pictures of Harry with children, and that is why Harry's visit should be a wake-up call for his estranged brother William, and in my book, he should stop skulking and be the man that he was actually born to be. Harry's triumphant tour has been a great success in PR and is bad news for the Prince of Wales. The only images we see of William smiling is in the home videos he and Kate reluctantly release of them and the children frolicking around one of their many homes, not on royal duties seen by the public. Well, there you have it, guys. There you have it. An onslaught by the Daily Mail publicly putting out articles discussing the king and queen to be as boring entities who only smile in fixed videos that are pre-filmed with a pre-message to put out to the public. They're not smiling on the royal duties. They're barely even there with Kate Middleton. For the Daily Mail to come out with an article like this clearly goes to show you that they are done with these two and are actually praising Harry is insane.
Now, Squaddies, this is where things get really interesting, because for years we've heard this idea that Harry somehow needs the royal machine behind him. He needs the palace, he needs the balcony, he needs the official royal schedule. He needs somebody in a suit standing behind him saying, "Right, Your Royal Highness, your next appointment is at 2:15. Apparently, without all of that, Harry is supposed to disappear. Well, look who's still getting people talking. Harry comes back to the UK. He turns up for work connected to something he genuinely cares about. People notice, the media notice, the public starts talking, and suddenly we're right back here discussing Prince Harry. Now tell me something, Squaddies. If the royal machinery was the only reason Harry ever attracted attention, shouldn't the interest have disappeared the moment he stepped away? Wouldn't people have simply said, okay, he's gone, next? But that's not what happened. That's the part critics don't seem to want to deal with. Harry can step away from the palace timetable and still create a moment. And that's important because there is a difference between being given attention and being able to attract attention. Those aren't the same thing. If an institution puts your name on a program, of course people are going to notice. But when you don't have that machinery working around you and people are still interested in what you're doing, now we're talking about the individual. And Harry has something that can't simply be printed on an official schedule: personality. He's got a story, he's got experiences, he's got causes he cares about, he's got a connection with people who have followed his journey for years. And whether somebody likes Harry or not, you can't just switch that off. That's human nature. Think about it in regular life. Maybe there's a guy at your workplace who leaves the company. You might think, well, that's it, nobody's going to hear from him again. Then 6 months later, he starts his own business. Suddenly everybody is asking, did you see what he's doing now? That's because people were interested in him, not just the office where he used to work. That's the point with Harry. The palace was an environment. It wasn't his entire identity. And when he walks away from that environment, he can still bring his own audience, his own reputation, and his own personal story with him. That's why I find this whole Harry needs the monarchy argument so funny. Needs it for what? To exist? Clearly not. To work? No. To have people interested in what he's doing? Again, clearly not. Harry can turn up somewhere connected to a cause he cares about, and suddenly the conversation starts. And that's without somebody handing him a royal script. No palace briefing, no fancy balcony, no giant procession, no trumpets, just Harry, and people are watching. That's actually pretty powerful, because when you're no longer surrounded by all the traditional machinery, whatever attention you receive becomes much easier to connect to you as a person. And I think that's something regular people understand. You don't need your old job title forever. You don't need your old company behind you forever. You don't need the same people validating you forever. Sometimes you leave, you build something else, you find another purpose, and you discover that people were following you, not just the position you held. That's what Harry's UK visit can represent. He doesn't need to walk back into royal life to prove he still matters. He doesn't need to stand next to William. He doesn't need a palace announcement telling everyone that Prince Harry has arrived. He can simply show up, do the work, and let people decide whether they care. And clearly, people care. That's why the visit becomes a conversation. That's why we're sitting here talking about it. And that's why the old argument that Harry would become irrelevant without the palace looks weaker every time he creates another moment on his own terms. Harry isn't borrowing relevance from the royal machine. He's walking in with his own. And Squaddies, that's the bit I want people to remember. You can leave an institution without leaving behind everything that made people connect with you. Harry left the royal sap. He didn't leave his personality at the palace gates. He didn't leave his story there. And he certainly didn't leave his ability to get people talking. So when Harry comes back to Britain and creates another big moment without all the royal bells and whistles, don't ask what the palace gave him. Ask what Harry brought with him. Because apparently, the man himself was enough.
Now, Squaddies, let's talk about Australia, because this is where the whole idea that Harry and Meghan are somehow finished starts looking a little ridiculous. Take Harry and Meghan out of Britain. Take away the palace, take away the royal balcony, take away the official palace machinery, take away all the usual royal bells and whistles. And what happens? People still show up. That's the bit I love, because Australia wasn't just about two famous people walking into a room, waving at a few cameras and going home. There was excitement around Harry and Meghan as a couple, and Meghan brings something important into that picture. When Harry and Meghan are together, there's a different kind of energy. It's not just, here comes another royal engagement, it's, Harry and Meghan are here. That's a completely different feeling, and regular people know exactly what I'm talking about. You can go to an event because somebody has a job title, or you can go because you genuinely want to see that person. Big difference. It's like your favorite artist turning up at a local venue. You don't care who owns the building, you don't care who printed the program, you don't care which committee approved the event. You're there because that person is there. That's the kind of pull Harry and Meghan can create. And Australia is a brilliant example because it reminds people that their appeal was never locked inside one British institution. Their story travelled, their audience travelled, their connection with people travelled, and Meghan is a huge part of that. Let's be honest, Harry has his own identity, Meghan has her own identity, but put the two together and suddenly you've got a couple people are genuinely curious about. That's why I don't buy this idea that their public interest only existed because they were standing inside the royal machine. If that were true, their appeal should have disappeared once they stepped outside it, But it didn't. Instead, they've built a life that people continue to follow across different countries and different spaces. And that's important because you can control a schedule, you can control an invitation list, you can control a palace announcement, but you cannot order people to be emotionally invested. You can't send out a memo saying, "Attention everyone, please be excited about this royal couple." It doesn't work like that. People either connect with you or they don't. And Harry and Meghan clearly created a connection that went beyond the walls of the institution. That's why the Australia example matters so much. It shows that their appeal wasn't simply geographical. It wasn't just they're British royals, therefore people will turn up. There was something about Harry and Meghan themselves, their personalities, their chemistry, their story, the way they interacted with people, the way audiences responded to them. And Meghan in particular brought a completely different dimension to Harry's public image. She wasn't simply standing beside him. She became part of the reason people were interested in what they were doing together. That's why I think the irrelevant argument is so funny, because apparently they're irrelevant, yet people remember the huge moments, people remember the crowds, people remember the excitement, people remember Australia. And every time Harry and Meghan create another big moment somewhere in the world, that old question comes back. If nobody cares, why are people still showing up? Seriously, at some point the mathematics has to start making sense. You can't keep telling us nobody is interested while simultaneously pointing out every single thing they're doing. That's not indifference, that's attention. And I think there's a bigger lesson here for regular people. Sometimes you leave the place where everybody knew you. You leave the old job, you leave the old environment, you move somewhere new, and people assume your influence stays behind, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you are the thing people connected with, not the office, not the building, not the title. You. That's what makes Harry and Meghan interesting. They stepped outside the old setup and still managed to create moments that people wanted to watch. And that means their story didn't end when they left Britain. If anything, they proved they could build their own lane. So when somebody says Harry and Meghan are finished, I'm thinking about Australia. When somebody says nobody cares anymore, I'm thinking about those huge public moments. And when somebody says they only mattered because of the monarchy, I'm asking one very simple question. Then why did the excitement travel with them? Because that's the part you can't explain away. Harry and Meghan didn't need Britain to create a global moment. They didn't need a Paris balcony. They didn't need a royal press release telling people how important they were. They showed up as Harry and Meghan, and people responded. So if that is what being irrelevant looks like, Squaddies, I think somebody needs to check the dictionary, because Harry and Meghan aren't waiting for the world to give them relevance. They're creating their own moments, and the world keeps watching.
Now, Squaddies, let's drop the polished diplomatic speak for a second and call a spade a spade. When headline after headline starts calling William and Kate boring, the mainstream media tries to cushion the blow. They say, oh, it's just the tabloids, or they're just being dutiful. No, let's stop making excuses for them. The truth is simple. They are boring. And no amount of royal machinery, pristine tailoring, or staged photo ops can hide it anymore. Because let's look at what the public is actually being served week after week. It's not a royal duty, it's a Groundhog Day. Arrive, smile on cue, shake 3 pre-vetted hands, nod politely while someone explains a spreadsheet, cut a ribbon, wave for the cameras, get back in the Range Rover, roll credits. Next engagement, please. It is the exact same script, played out in the exact same tone, with the exact same sanitized energy. You can swap out the backdrop, you can change the dress, you can put them in a hospital, a farm, or a red carpet. It doesn't matter. The experience is completely lifeless. It feels like watching someone clock in for a shift at the office, do the bare minimum to not get fired, and clock right back out. And here's the harsh reality. A title is not a personality. You can put a crown on a folding chair. At the end of the day, it's still just a chair. For years, the palace has relied on the sheer gravity of the institution to keep people interested. But the audience isn't stupid. People don't just want to see someone execute a choreographed routine. They want warmth, they want charisma, they want an actual human spark. They want a reason to care. And that is precisely why the comparison to Prince Harry hits such a raw nerve in the palace corridors. Because Harry stripped away the entire institutional security blanket. He gave up the palace PR machine, the royal diary, the army of advance teams, and the guaranteed front page coverage. He walked out into the open market. And what happens? When Harry walks into a room, the room lights up. He speaks with passion, he connects off script, he hugs people like he actually wants to be there, and instantly, boom, it's an international moment. He doesn't need a golden carriage or a 100-page briefing packet to command a crowd. He has charisma. Meanwhile, William and Kate have the entire weight of the British Empire's PR machine backing them up, and the best they can generate is a yawn and a caption contest. Think about it in everyday terms. We all know the difference between the person who merely shows up to the meeting because it's on their calendar and the person who walks into the room and completely shifts the energy. Same room, same chairs, same cold coffee, completely different presence. William and Kate are the ultimate calendar check-ins. They perform the mechanics of royalty without any of the soul. It is technically proficient, utterly risk-averse, and painfully dull. The palace PR machine can throw out all the glossy portraits and staged family photos they want, but public fascination isn't something you can permanently lock down with a hereditary title. It has to be earned. And right now, the public is looking at the future king and queen and asking the one question a public figure should dread above all else. Haven't we seen this exact same episode already? So no, there are no excuses left. When you have every tool, every advisor, and every platform on earth handed to you on a silver platter, and the world still finds you uninspiring, the problem isn't the press. The problem isn't the audience. The problem is what you're bringing to the table. And right now, it's completely empty.
Now, Squaddies, let's get real for a second, because this whole situation has officially reached peak comedy. Have you noticed how Harry and Meghan can literally just wake up, sip their coffee, mind their own business, and still end up dominating every single conversation in the British press? Let's be clear, Harry and Meghan aren't chasing William and Kate. They aren't sitting in Montecito wringing their hands asking, "Quick, what are the royals doing today so we can counter-program?" Please. Harry is out here building global platforms, leading international initiatives, and actually connecting with human beings. Meghan is launching businesses, driving creative projects, and moving forward. They have their own lives, their own lane, and their own vision. They are busy. So why is it that every time Harry and Meghan achieve something, the media pulls out a giant spreadsheet and goes into a full meltdown? Wait, let's compare headline inches. Let's analyze outfit budgets. Let's check the attendance numbers. Squaddies, put the calculators down. The Sussexes didn't ask for the comparison. The audience did. The world did. And why? Because human beings naturally notice the difference between genuine star power and a completely hollow PR construct. Think about the absurdity of it. Harry and Meghan don't have the institutional machinery anymore. They gave up the palace press office, the guaranteed royal diary, and the army of advance teams paid for by taxpayers. They stepped out onto the global stage completely on their own terms. And yet, the second they walk into a room, boom, it's magnetic. The energy shifts. Harry doesn't need a scripted speech written by 4 committee members to speak from the heart. Meghan doesn't need a staged, pre-vetted photo op to make a genuine, warm connection with someone. It is authentic, it is effortless, and it is alive. Meanwhile, over in London, what are William and Kate bringing to the table? A template. A snooze fest, a groundhog day of sanitized, risk-averse, clock-in, clock-out corporate appearances. Arrive, smile, shake a hand, cut a ribbon, read a dry statement, wave, get in the car. Next stop. It's stiff, it's uninspired, it's boring. And no amount of royal titles, golden carriages, or pristine tailoring can hide the fact that without the palace PR machine propping them up, William and Kate simply do not know how to generate organic excitement. You can put a crown on a folding chair, Squaddies. It is still just a chair. The reason the media keeps screaming about Harry and Meghan isn't because the Sussexes are competing. It's because William and Kate are failing to hold the room on their own. If the future king and queen were actually captivating, nobody would be looking across the Atlantic asking, why can't William and Kate spark that kind of energy? The comparison only exists because the contrast is so painfully stark. Harry and Meghan don't need to win an imaginary competition. They're already in a league of their own. They built their own lane, they're thriving in it, and they don't owe the establishment a single explanation. So let the critics stay obsessed, let the tabloids throw their tantrums, because while the palace is busy trying to manufacture charm with another staged photo op, Harry and Meghan are out here actually living it. Squaddies, tell me I'm lying. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, Squaddies. I'm your host, Miles. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Have a blessed week ahead. Love you all, and God bless.